Thank you for staying with us. Before we went in the break, we were talking about the minister's designate inauguration and looking at specific or key portfolios and the work cut out for them. I still have our guests in the studio with us discussing this. Now, I'm coming to you, Akin. You have been talking about key performance index as well as key performance action. Now, let's bring it to the economy, for instance. If you look at the paper this morning, the matter of job creation, inflation, as well as looking at stabilizing the Naira is one of the issues that Nigerians are saying that, you know, the minister in charge has a whole lot to do. When you're talking about key performance index and action, what are your expectations with regards to he hitting the ground running?
Easy, low-hanging fruits.
Right.
Leadership. Leadership is not an Oxford or Cambridge thing. Sometimes it's emotional intelligence, understanding your environment, and then going out for it, so going after it decisively, focusedly, and determinedly. So, the supervising minister for each that President Bola Tinubu has arrayed as people that can help him lies with President Bola Tinubu himself. I will try and explain this based on immediate past history. During President Jonathan's time, we had somebody that had been headhunted. I'm going to come back to Wale Edu now, from the diaspora. And we were all shouting, Okunjo, Ezekwesili, they are going to be paid, you know, in foreign currency. Obasanjo just stood his ground. President Jonathan inherited Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala. I know for a fact that one of the most traumatic things that happened to that lady of class and eclat, who is at the World Trade Center, you know, today, was frustration. It was frustration because the chief samurai at that time, Jonathan gave her a portfolio. Looks to me as if President Jonathan looked at the other side. I know how the jostle for power and control between Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala and the Azani Madueke went. I was in the oil and gas. I know for sure. In fact, at one point in time, Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala sat in the meeting with us on all this subsidy or no subsidy thing. I don't know. Gradually raised a hand and said, "Look, this is quite frustrating." The last letter she wrote to the industry was, "Well, non-dimitters. I have tried my best, but I'm not sure I'm getting the kind of cooperation." If you make somebody the coordinating minister for the economy, so important, that coordinating minister for the economy is like a GM. Okay, I mean, it's like your hand, your nose, with pies elsewhere. In fact, the ministries that you mentioned, I would like to kindly and politely add the Ministry of, I'm talking of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Lateef. Himself, well-honed, the Minister of the Economy, also well-honed, looking at the legal implications of some of the Achilles heel that we already have, should make sure that, legally speaking, this federal government obeys the rule of law and the rule of justice. You ask me, I asked feebly, and it looked like a very funny question at that time to Mr. Okonjo-Iweala at the boardroom. And I said, "Madam, I mean, if these things are going on now, why are you still here?" And I hope she'll see this, and she shook her head. Not long after that, she wrote a book. She nearly lost her life. So many other things cropped up. Mr. President and Chief Samurai, must recognize the interlinkage between the Attorney General, Minister for Justice, hopefully will be strong enough to now then say some of the things that we'll be talking about, we need to separate them. Yeah. That's by the way. To now look at all the other sectors. Wale Edun must be respected more for his intellect and the fact that everybody will want to come to him, whether it's digital economy, whether it's intensifying, whether it's labor, whether it's education, all the enabling rules and laws for us to be able to get the trust back out there. They are very, very important. I think Wale Edun, from his antecedents, based on perception and perhaps a little bit on my own little knowledge about his antecedents, is not just an A1 and a first-class practitioner. He's there. Now, let's look at health. Professor Pate. And Wale, I don't know which university you went to, but I went to ABU.
I went to Lagos State University.
Okay, so this is time to now wave the flag of Ahmadu Bello University.
Right.
In 1990, when he did his MBBS, and the fact that not long after that, part of the things that he looked at as a CEO was primary health care. Yeah. I am reminded of Professor Olikoye Ransom Kuti of blessed memory. I expect Professor Pate, who haven't left Gavi, at now coming to decide that he was going to work for government from the patriotic aspect of it, somebody like that must be not only respected, must be listened to. Look at all the shenanigans and all the cobwebs we have around the health management system, and there's so many, time will not permit people to go into it. Those are the kind of people, when they prepare their memo, it should not be me and Adewale competing to please the boss and stuff like that. We can cooperate. And this is what I'm looking at. Oh, you have not looked at some other legal implications. Can you delay this a little bit and stuff like that? So that by the time you now get onto the presenting your papers at the council meeting, is going to be not only robust. I'll be speaking at a pitch to which the legal officer will be supporting me, to which Festus Keyamo, who I think is also a lawyer, will be looking at some legal shenanigans in an aviation which has not been a top notch. We are all going to be looking at that from the perspective. Final point I want to say here. For any of these ministers that we know, they are not necessarily there because of what they want to eat, more of patriotism, more of the hope agenda. I have an advice. Please do not be afraid. Do not be afraid when you see the truth. Say the truth to this power, to Mr. President. He may shake his head, he may, whatever it is, but he's going to go back into the recess of it. I've always said this before, and said, yeah, this is not a yes man, including the fact that, Mr. President, if you don't do it this way, we are going to go do it that way, here's my letter of resignation. That is very, very important. It takes things like that very, very seriously. But we have a management system whereby KPIs have been developed. Yeah. Job studies and job descriptions have been taken. And I use the word, I use the term 6 months, that every 6 months, each of these ministers should not necessarily be accountable, should be accountable to the Commander-in-Chief, absolutely no doubt about that, should also be accountable to us. Liaising also with their state governors, taking care of the politics, and legislators, both at the national and at the state level. If this is what I see President Bola Tinubu meaning when, after 2 days, 3 days, he made a profound statement to his army chiefs and security chiefs. I want inter-agency cooperation. And that should go for all of them, because the strength of the chain is with the weakest. There will naturally be the weakest in there. It behoves on this board of ministers to look at it, see what is happening elsewhere, give good advice so that we can put Nigeria in the right trajectory.
Putting Nigeria in the right trajectory, that's what Nigerians are also talking about. Let's look at the matter of security now and defense. I wonder what your key performance index will be for him. Nigerians are saying that there's been several conversations with regards to he handling that portfolio, talking about Bello Matawale, who's a former governor, and that perhaps his experience will also come to play with regards to this. But what do you see him doing, putting it side by side the renewed hope agenda?
What I see him doing is he bringing the people closer to the various security structures that we have in a non-kinetic way. No matter how you try to use brutal force or strong force in order to achieve a very secure environment, if you don't bring the people in terms of gathering information, making the area very permissible, it won't work. And while he was governor, he has never been known for any controversy that I know of in that area of security and all whatnot. And with his age and his experience, these are things that will work in that area. But you should not also forget that you also have a very good square peg in a square hole in the person of Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, looking at his performance as the EFCC boss and all whatnot. And he's very civil in his approach. So you having him as the NSA, now working with the Minister for Security and all whatnot, and you have very good elements within the security formation, and the CNC is there. So you're going to have Heges working very strongly to get the people involved in securing our space. And those professionals will also do the needful. But you must also look at the foreign approach, because most of these arms and ammunition, we don't produce it here. And the president has assured us that a lot of it will be produced here. Good enough, we have some armor companies that are domiciled in Nigeria that are doing very well, like the one in Ogun State and all whatnot. And we also need to recruit more people into our security architecture to increase the number for them to watch all of these areas very closely and carry out whatever assignment that they're given to them. But the foreign approach is that we also need to redefine our foreign relationship with many of these countries that controls the security infrastructure, especially when it comes to aviation. And all of that, those fighter jets, we need more. We need more attack helicopters. We need more ships to police our waterways and all of that. We also need to strengthen local production. What I would expect him to do now, send more Nigerians out to gather the training, gather the knowledge, come back in and domesticate it. By now, Nigeria should be producing warship. You understand? We have the capacity, we have people that can do it. We need to also improve the Ajaokuta steel mill and some other, of our natural resources that are embedded and all of these things. So a lot of concentration must go into domestic production and, of course, increasing our numbers.
Right. The other issue is the issue of education. How we're dealing with out-of-school children and so many issues when it comes to the education sector. And the fact that we also have the matters of labor on the ground, strike. And the president, in his speech when he was accepting when he was named as the winner of the election, and he was saying that he's going to ensure that 4 years is 4 years, addressing the matter of strikes in the education sector. That's another matter right now on the ground that Nigerians are hoping will be looked into. And then we also have the issue of doctors striking, and these are labor matters. Key performance index and actions. What do you see these persons doing?
Veronica,
yes,
I will say the truth to myself first.
Okay.
Pray about my truth, no matter how hard and difficult, and I'll come to you. Of course, your first reaction will be to cast me away. But to say truth will always be constant. But when you now put some conscience into it, like Madam Fulio said, it will heal. We have lied to ourselves so tremendously and so ferociously that Machiavelli has said, we've taken it for truth. Education, you said. The problems we have in the education sector goes beyond what this president, I dare say, you could have an idea, you could put policy directives on them, goes beyond it to a backlog of so many things that have been done wrongly. I will come out and say the truth. Like I said to myself, I said the truth to Nigerians. You don't want to buy my truth, then you take me off, starting with education. We have made alliances, assurances, promises. There's a whole lot of backlog that is out there that's unpaid, that will remain unpaid unless we begin to take some of those bold actions that the president took in, day one, day two of his inauguration on Monday, 29 May. And that we've got to be able to freeze money to be able to now take it in there. He's facing challenges in there. The doctors who said, the ASU, not talking about labor, the Labor Congress, and all at the state level. It therefore tells me, I know you are not asking that, because part of the truth I'm going to tell myself is, I am a performer. And if you give me the tools, I'm going to be able to deliver. Right. If I don't have the tools, I don't have a few other things in there, I'll look at the wall and ask myself, what then should we do? This country must physically deconstruct. We call it any name you want to call it. We must restructure. We have to restructure because we may not be able to afford at a time go. We have to restructure in such a way and manner. I haven't said the truth. The other thing about that truth is that I also live by example. I will not decide to be fat, in my waist, and then be asking people to
tighten their belt.
Educational reform that we have, maybe gray areas are here and there. I expect one of the first things that the education minister should do, also being a lawyer, being in Bayes University, a university that I know is owned by the deputy presidential candidate of Labour.
Vice presidential candidate.
Vice presidential candidate of Labour. And then let's call ourselves around the table. Certain things are just not going to happen. But if I say certain things are not going to happen, I will have to be showing that example. So I show that example and tell certain things are not going to happen. This is the path we should go. If we do this, this is what is going to come in. If we, economics talk about, when returns diminish, and then, forgone alternatives. If you do not plug certain things, you are not going to get in there. You can't do it all at a go. So my KPI will be for the education minister to come out and say the truth. Well, for all the ministers, but for education minister, this is the truth of the matter. I am going to go to Mr. President. I am going to be asking for a situation where the constitution that we are operating is skewed towards enriching some people, whether National Assembly or whatever it is. This needs to be caught. We need to begin to show that great example. And I tell you, Mr. Lecturer, some of these things that you are asking for are just not possible. In the oil and gas, we tried it. Same labor. During our time, said, no, certain things are not going to happen. Certain things are not going to happen. So come in. Let's come and say, let's give it to you. Let's see what we are going to do. And people are just looking here and there. When you involve people, and you involve them in a way and manner that they see you as that blind man who, while frying the groundnut, is whistling so that the deaf will know that something is not going down. So we need trust. We need some form of restructuring. the KPI will be such that you look at yourself. You don't go there and go and tell Mr. President or tell Nigerians that you are going to resolve in 2, 3, 6 months. No, you can't say that. You can't say that when you have not, kind of streamlined the legal things that have gone wrong all over the place. And because we need to begin to see action from you, when Nigerians begin to see some of these things, they will trust you, they will give you some relative chance, and they will know that by leading to such example and being fair, being equitable, the reason why I brought in Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, he has a lot of job cut out for him. And you asked him about Matawale, okay, that's by the way. On the face of it, the 2 and 2, the dots are not nothing. I don't know what is in the brains of Mr. President. I know there are a lot of state actors. Talk of Matawale, talk of Badaru, and all. These people are all at the fringe. And you're talking about Tuga, a foreign minister, who know and should know that some things needs to be done about the issue of Niger. Come out, tell Nigerians the truth,
Right.
live true, live exemplary, and Nigerians are going to follow you. Pure and simple.
All right. The other aspect will be the aspect of power. And Nigerians say that power is critical to the day-to-day runnings of their lives, be it businesses, whatever it is as it is. And I am wondering how you see the minister designate hitting the ground running to addressing this matter of power being available to every Nigerian, such that Nigerians can heave a sigh of relief in that aspect as well. Another issue is the matter of aviation that raised some controversy with regards to the minister designate, Festus Keyamo, people saying that he perhaps does not have a basic idea with regards to the issues of aviation because he's a lawyer. How is it that he's getting that portfolio? How is he going to ensure that Nigerians or the country reaps the dividends or benefits it should with regards to the aviation sector? There's so much that is said can be tapped from the aviation sector, but how can he hit the ground running to ensuring that?
Well, before I answer the issue of power and aviation, I just want to contribute this to security. For that, in that area, I think the security, the minister heading that ministry should also work aggressively on implementing state policing across the country. Okay. We've seen what is happening in the Southwest. You can see that
yes.
Yeah, you can see that the problem has really gone down.
Including the ministers of police affairs and the
So we're putting everything under security now, right? They must work assiduously to implement state policing and community policing.
Right.
When you do that, then our military will have lesser work to do. So I'm hoping, and I know by the grace of God, by the time we finish these 4 years, every state should have its own police. And then you can have the right numbers that you want. Now, taking it to aviation, you see, one thing in the aviation industry that we need more is having very good framework, right? If the framework are very good, the industry should be open to the extent that let key industry players come in, reduce the tax in that particular sector. Because when you look at the cost of air flight, just from Togo here to the United States or to Europe, it's almost half of what should be paid in Nigeria. The Nigerian cost is too high.
Yes.
And you also need to create a lot of buffer funds for key industry players in Nigeria in order to support that business and all whatnot. Mr. Keyamo will be able to do a lot in that area. We don't expect him to start producing hangars, producing Boeing engines and all of that. What you need more, right, is a very focused the legal framework for them to operate in that industry. Okay. Then on power.
Quickly.
Good enough that the former president has unbundled that area. Good enough that is one of the strengths of the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he has demonstrated in year 2000 when he wanted to bring on board the IPP project and all of that. Now he has the opportunity to do that, and I'm very sure that that is one particular ministry he will put his eyes into.
Okay, we have to leave our conversation here now. Our time is up, gentlemen. I must thank you. Former Manager, Public and Government Affairs at Mobil Oil Nigeria PLC, CEO, Chronicler and Associate, Akin Fatunke, as well as Public Affairs Analyst, Ayodele Adewale, for your time on the program.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.